Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 846, July the 23rd, Tuesday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, today's been a absolutely huge news day. We've had 3, potentially 4 really big stories today. I do not have time to cover all of them today, so I'm going to hit the first 2 and then the other 2 I'll do tomorrow. Now the 2 I'm going to deal with tomorrow, they're both basically coming from John Solomon at the Hill. One of those stories has to do with, and you can read about it, it's already up on thehill.com, July 22nd story from John Solomon, and it has to do with Andrew Wiseass apparently trying to get this Ukrainian guy who was facing some criminal charges, and Wiseass was suggesting to him that if he would help them with some dirt on Trump, that they would make his criminal charges go away. And there's a lot more to that story. Okay, so it's a major story, and but you can read about it now. I'll be talking about it tomorrow. The other thing, John Solomon, he was on Sean Hannity's show, on his radio show in the afternoon, of course, promoting this story that he had just put up on the Hill, the one I just referred to, and he also said that there could be some new information coming out on Joseph Mifsud either tomorrow or the next day. So I'll be keeping my my eyes peeled for this new information on Mifsud, because as most of you know, I cover Mifsud very, very closely every day practically, and so we'll get to those 2 things tomorrow. In the meantime, we have 2 other major stories, and let me go ahead and get to those now. The first one coming from Paul Sperry. Paul Sperry at Real Clear Investigations. Now, there's a lot going on with this story. Too much to get to every single detail. But what I recommend you do, if you like this story, is go on over to Real Clear Investigations and read the story by Paul Sperry. Or I imagine you can go to his Twitter page. He probably has a link there. I check his Twitter page every day. So I'm just going to go through the general outline and overview of the Paul Sperry article. To get a lot of the details, you'll want to go read the article. But let's go through the general deal here. So, it appears that Horowitz, and that's Inspector General Huckleberry Horowitz, the custodian, the cleanup man, has evidence that the former director of the Federal Bureau of I'm With Her, James Comey, probed Trump on the sly. In fact, that's the name of the article. Horowitz has evidence that Comey probed Trump on the sly. So Huckleberry Horowitz will soon file a report with evidence indicating that Comey was misleading the president, telling Trump on at least 3 occasions he was not the target of an FBI investigation when he was. As it turns out, Comey was trying to build a conspiracy case against Trump while acting as an investigative agent. 2 U.S. officials briefed on the IG report say that Horowitz is investigating possible misconduct by the FBI. The Inspector General has evidence that Comey was running a covert operation against the president. Obama, Biden, Rice, Jay Johnson, Sally Yates, Mr. Potato Head, John Brennan, as well as James Clapper were all briefed by Comey on the game that Comey was running on Trump. In Comey's book, he denies running a counterintelligence operation on Trump, as well as denying it under oath in 2 different congressional hearings. Everything that Comey did was illegal, according to FBI agent and lawyer Mark Walk, W-A-C-K, because there was no probable cause for collusion or espionage. Exactly what I've been saying for 2 years. Comey's lawyer has declined to respond to questions about these new revelations. Comey also planted an agent inside the White House And I think there was more than one, because we talked about one a long time ago, and his name has never really come back up. But now we have another one, and this person, apparently there is a paper trail and evidence that he was in fact planted by Comey. Still nothing on the other guy, but that's okay. Let's get back to this guy. So as I just stated, there are new revelations that Comey planted an agent inside the White House. His name was Anthony Ferrante, Ferrante. Anthony Ferrante was an FBI cybersecurity expert. He was planted by Comey. Ferrante left the White House after Comey was fired, and he went to work for BuzzFeed. Well, he went to work for a contractor contracted by BuzzFeed, and he went there to try and verify the so-called Steele dossier. Another FBI agent, Jordan Ray Kelly, who worked closely with Mueller when he was the FBI head, replaced Ferrante after he left the White House. Kelly left the White House last year and now works with Ferrante at that same contractor called FTI Consulting, and they're a contractor for BuzzFeed. Oh, man. Comey set up a secret team, which he called, quote, the Sensitive Matter Team, to run the intelligence op on Trump. Unbelievable. Not really unbelievable. I mean, it is quite believable, but what's unbelievable is that Comey's still walking around. He should have been SWAT raided by now. We reported about, gee whiz, it had to be back in, I think it was actually early 2017, about another individual, not even these two, not even these two I just mentioned, but another person who was put as a spy into the White House. And I've never heard anything more about him since then. But there's no telling how many spies that they had loaded up inside the White House on Trump. All of it illegal. No probable cause, no reasonable suspicion. You need one of those two things to launch an investigation, and certainly to put spies, especially the President of the United States. Comey is in deep, deep trouble. Huckleberry Horowitz, the custodian, is not even going to be able to clean up this mess without taking down a few heads. Of course, all he's going to do is refer them to the Department of Justice. And we know what happens there. Nothing. Which is why it's up to Durham and Attorney General Barr. Speaking of, we have the Department of Justice. They have advised Mueller, yesterday, they advised Mueller to stay on script during the hearing and to limit his testimony to only what is in the report. They're not going to let him freelance. And I expect that there'll be a lot of that. When Uncle Bob's asked a question, he's going to say, well, that's in my report. Read it in my report. It's here. And he'll tell him what page it's on. Going to get a lot of that. But see, what's been going on here is for about the past week or two, Nunes has been going on, he's been on Bartiromo and Fox, and he said, he's hearing from people, he knows that Uncle Bob the Executioner has been working with both Pencil Neck Geek Schiff's committee and the Penguin Nadler's committee to try to come up with some sort of a word ploy which can be used to get more support by Democrats who don't currently support it to have impeachment hearings. And it's all a setup. And the reason Uncle Bob has agreed to do it, or agreed to come before the Congress with the subpoena, is because he's worked out something with Schiff and Nadler to supply some type of information that could be used to move forward with impeachment, or at least ways to get the support of the Democrats that they don't currently have to get them to back impeachment. And so, in other words, the plot continues. Now, as most of you might have noticed, in two videos that I did last week, I made a fairly strenuous suggestion to the Attorney General that it's time that he take to the podium and state exactly what we all know happened. Now, I realize the investigation is not over, but it doesn't need to be over. But the reason that I said that is because it's quite obvious that the coup that we know existed still exists. It's never ended. And this deal with Mueller appearing in front of these committees is simply a continuation of the coup effort. Barr already gave Mueller cover and said, hey, if you don't want to appear, we have no problem with that. The Department of Justice isn't going to hold you in contempt. We're not going to do anything. If you want to ignore the subpoena, go ahead. But Uncle Bob did not ignore the subpoena. Now, he's not going to go there so he can be grilled by Republicans. He's going there, and he's willing to have his butt chewed on by Republicans because there's obviously something else. Something else he wants to do. And I suspect, like Nunes, that he's been behind the scenes working with these Democrats so that he can give them say something or volunteer something or go along with something that can be used to bring about impeachment hearings. So that's why I said that Barr needs to step forward now to the podium. And, I mean, the fact is, we have enough information now, especially what Barr has seen. He's seen a lot more than we've seen, but just what's in the public record. We know there was an attempted coup. And we know that it continues. And at some point, because this thing's taking forever, it's dragging on and on and on, in the meantime, the coup continues. And what I'm suggesting is that Barr needs to step forward to the podium and end the coup. He needs to step up to the podium and say, we are now at a course in our investigation where we've seen enough evidence that we know that there's an effort to try to get the president removed from office. There were efforts made to try to keep him from being elected. There have been efforts since he's been the president to try to get him removed from office. We have enough evidence that we feel strongly that we have the evidence to prove this. And our investigation is continuing, and it will continue until it's complete. But at this time, we already have enough information to know. And so I just want to put these people on notice and let you know. We know about what you did. And it's time to stop the coup effort. It's time to stop the coup effort. We know all about you. We know what you're doing. You're under serious investigation. And many of you are going to be pretty soon in front of a grand jury and likely being indicted. It's time to stop the coup. That's what Attorney General Barr needs to step forward and say. And then he needs to walk away from the podium after saying it's time to stop the coup and go back to work. He needs to stop it. He's the one man who can do it. He doesn't need to wait for the entire investigation to be over to step forward and say, we're this far in the investigation. This is what we've learned. And I felt like I have to because I'm the Attorney General and I see what's going on here and we know what's going on. I need to put it to a stop. And that's why I'm here today, to make this little announcement. Stop it. End the coup right now. You people are in a lot of trouble. And then he needs to go back and get back on the job. That's why I said this, because I know what they're cooking. I know what's cooking in the kitchen. In Hillary's kitchen. I saw a pretty disturbing video today. I don't know how many of you saw it. But if you want to know how bad it is under the Comey, Bill de Blasio in New York, and you got to see this video. Don't take my word for it. It's a short video clip. There's two New York cops, and they're attempting to make an arrest on a suspect. And as they're attempting to make an arrest, people all around them, just people, start throwing shit at them, throwing water at them, doing all sorts of stuff, harassing them, throwing shit at them. At some point, they kind of break off their arrest, and they go to cross the street, and as they're doing so, they are literally getting heckled, having shit thrown at them, and in fact, two guys actually come up with literally buckets. I'm not talking a small cup of water. I'm talking buckets of water and completely douse these two cops. Just take the bucket and completely right over top of them, just like they won the Super Bowl, and they are completely drenched. I mean drenched. Now, I'm telling you, in the town I live in, if you even took a cup of water and tossed it on a cop, you would be literally beat to shit. I mean, they would not tolerate that at all, and you definitely would be charged with assaulting a police officer. I could not believe my eyes watching this video. These cops did nothing. Nothing. The one didn't even turn around after they dumped the bucket of water on him. He didn't even turn around to look and see who did what. He just kept walking. These two cops literally allowed themselves to be assaulted, dumped buckets of water on them, screamed at, hollered at, and everything else, and they never did a damn thing. Woo! That is not good. That is the police in New York under de Blasio. That is just unbelievable. That would never happen in the city I live in. Well, I got to tell you what. Nah. That would not happen. Okay, so the next big story I want to cover is, of course, many of you have already heard about. And I actually first got tipped off on this by one of our subscribers to my channel, who many of you are familiar with. He posts in the comment section quite a bit. Peter Swales, S-W-A-L-E-S. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. So Peter, yesterday, I saw it on Sunday morning, leaves a link for this video. It's a video of Ellen Ratner being interviewed on a TV show. And so he leaves this link, and I go watch the link. And sure enough, it's Ellen Ratner in an interview, and she's basically sitting there, and she says, yes, she says, in fact, here's her exact quote. Let's see. Ratner admits that she met with Assange for 3 hours, and he told her that the leaks were not from the Russians, that they were from an internal source, from the Hillary Clinton campaign, from somebody who knew Hillary, an enemy. So that's what she said on this TV show, which backs up exactly. Remember, as I said the other day, Butowski's entire court case probably rides on whether or not Ratner will admit that she told him what he claims she did, and in fact he better have emails or some evidence to prove that. Well, now he don't even need email evidence, because literally Peter, and I don't know how he found it, but found this video where you can literally sit there and watch her on TV in this interview where she says, yeah, I talked to Assange the day after the election, literally the day after the 2016 election. She's talking to Assange, and he says, yeah, it wasn't the Russians. It was these people at the DNC, people working for the Hillary Clinton campaign. So now she's on record on TV saying exactly what Butowski says that she told him. So now we have the federal court filing, and we now have the first-hand person who told Butowski this. No longer a question of whether or not she said it. She flat out admits it. Now, she doesn't admit she told Ed Butowski. Doesn't really matter. It's the fact that she literally admits on TV what I just said. That she met with Assange for 3 hours, and he told her that the leaks were not from the Russians. They were from an internal source, from the Hillary Clinton campaign, from somebody who knew Hillary, an enemy. So, awesome job, Peter. Awesome job. Now, Peter then followed that up with another comment to say that when he discovered this, he sent it over to Ed Butowski, which prompted Butowski, I believe, let's see, what did he say? So, Swales, Peter, our subscriber here to TowerGate, contacts Butowski and gives him a link to the video, in which case Butowski then takes it and posts it up on his Twitter page. Then he actually calls Peter. He calls Peter and says that he and his lawyers find the video to be of the utmost significance. There you go. A TowerGate subscriber involved in a major effort, in a major way, in moving this story along. Thank you so much, Peter Swales, for being a sub and for taking the active measure of contacting Mr. Butowski so that we get to the bottom of this. Very well done, sir. I don't know how they can not cover the story now, but I'm still not seeing anybody covering it. People are terrified. Now, we know why Sean Hannity can't talk about it, because when he was talking about it, Fox News was hit with 2 lawsuits, one from the Riches, inspired by Mr. Bauman. They were trumped up and they were bullshit, but Fox News didn't really want to go through the hassle, and I'm sure he's got a gag order on him. And maybe that's why when DeGeneva or anyone else goes on Fox, they may want to talk about it, But obviously they're not able to talk about it. And now that Dan Bongino is essentially signed on with Fox, he's probably been told, no Seth Rich. No Seth Rich. But, I mean, this is now a legit news story. It doesn't matter what the Riches think. And again, I mean, I feel bad for the Riches, but quite honestly, they have not helped themselves in this situation. And they don't want the truth. Because in telling the whole truth, they don't want the whole truth. But they say they want the truth about who killed their son, but they obviously don't want the whole truth because they can't stand the fact that people think that the hacking emails had something to do with getting Trump elected. Well, I mean, you know, when you're talking about this murder of your son, I mean, why does that even matter? I mean, are they that? I guess they're that hardcore, uptight Democrats, or maybe associated with so many Democrats that maybe they feel they'll be like outcast in the club or something. I don't know exactly what, but I wouldn't give a damn about my political friends when it came to my son's murder. I want to get the damn truth. So, anyhow, this is major. I mean, so now we have the federal lawsuit, and what the whole federal lawsuit is pretty much hinging on whether or not Butowski is telling the truth about his source telling him what WikiLeaks told her. But now there's no question about that. So we know the case is going to move forward. We know the case is going to move forward because now, not only does Butowski have email evidence that he says he has, he now has a video of Ratner saying exactly what he claims in the lawsuit. So this case is definitely moving forward. And now, I mean, it's an actual federal case. It's a civil case, but it was filed in federal court. And it has to do with a capital crime. And it has to do with Ellen Ratner giving critical information. It would be critical to a police investigation of a murder, which is now a cold case, which is unsolved. It's now an actual news story. It's a hell of a lot more of a story than the dossier. It is now an actual news story. It was a lawsuit. It was filed, and we now have the key person claimed in the lawsuit as being the source. We now have video who happens to be a Fox News employee. And we now have that video. I mean, I don't know how these media organizations, especially Fox, even in this case, cannot cover this story. I mean, it's not an issue. I mean, they don't have to worry about being sued. They're just covering the news story. If the only thing they did was cover the fact that, hey, Ed Butowski, this individual who also used to be a contributor to the Fox Business Network, Ed Butowski, former Fox Business News contributor, has filed a federal lawsuit, and in the lawsuit, he claims it's a defamation suit against 36 defendants who he claims tried to destroy him or destroy his life. He is claiming in this lawsuit that he was told by another Fox News personality, Ellen Ratner, that she spoke with Julian Assange the day after the election, November the 9th of 2016, and Assange told her that the Russians were not the source of the leaks, rather it was someone on the inside at the DNC, someone who worked for the Clinton campaign, and that's the news story. And if Fox News did nothing but report the news story, and then they can have their people who comment on these things. But this story is being kept, the lid is being kept on this story, just like the investigation. We knew the investigation from day one was capped. When there's a murder in the local neighborhood, the cops reach out to the public for information. The local cops work it. They work it. They have a list at every local police station of every damn thug in town. They got their names on a list, and they go talk to all of them. You don't have a crime like this go unsolved. There was physical contact between the victim and the suspect or suspects. Physical contact. I went through my Seth Rich 1, Seth Rich 2 videos and pointed out every single camera, of which there were 18 cameras that would have captured this. There would absolutely be DNA evidence. The two came in contact. There would be some DNA evidence. You do not have a crime where you have physical contact, combative contact, which left marks and bruises. You do not have that kind of contact and get no DNA evidence. There's a lot of problems with this story. I'm tired of the bullshit. So, at this point, how does Attorney General Barr and Mr. Durham, how do they not begin to look at this? Because if they're looking for the origins of the Trump-Russia collusion hoax, if they're looking for the origins, you're going to find yourself right there at the DNC and the claim that the Russians hacked the DNC. And when you have a federal court filing claiming a source, and these are good sources. This is a professional news person for a major news corporation, Fox News. When you have a reporter saying that they spoke to someone, in this case Mr. Assange, and he says, yeah, it wasn't the Russians, it was people on the inside. And I think we know who he's referring to. He's made it pretty clear, I think, who he's referring to. How can Mr. Durham and A.G. Barr not look at this? Will they go there? They say they want to get to the truth. They want to find the origins. People are terrified of this story. Terrified. The deep state is obviously pretty damn deep. So I don't know what more we have to have break on this particular story before someone starts to cover it. Now, the Geneva may not even know about it. But I find it hard to believe some of these other characters don't know about it, especially Bongino. Now, I know he doesn't want to risk his Fox News contract or anything else, but there's a way to get this done. There is a way to get this done. And now, I don't understand why you would be worried about a lawsuit. You can't be sued for simply reporting on actual factual news. You know, you can't sue Fox News because they're reporting that there's a federal lawsuit claiming this, this, and that. It's a lawsuit. It involves them at Fox News because it involves one former contributor to Fox Business Network and a current Fox Business reporter. This story, for whatever reason, and I don't think it's just lawsuits, because those are just bullshit. They were bullshit lawsuits to begin with, which Fox could have beat. They just didn't want to take the bad PR. Sometimes you got to have some balls. Telling the truth sometimes means you got to put yourself in some jeopardy. But good news organizations tell the truth because they know in the end they'll be proven correct, and in the end they'll win their case if they're sued, and they'll win back their credibility. Fox News is losing credibility right now by running away and hiding from this story. Shame on you, Fox. Thank you so much, Peter. The New York Post has a story out today that Jeffrey Epstein's gal pal, this woman Ghislaine Maxwell, which some people are suggesting that she is a cooperating witness right now. I'm not so sure about that, but that's what's being reported, that this gal pal of his, which acted like his pimp, she went out and recruited girls who recruited other girls into Epstein's web. Apparently this Maxwell lady is very, very close friends with Chelsea Clinton. Maxwell was also the contact between Epstein and all the Clintons. Not just Chelsea, not just Bill, but even the rotten Reverend. All made contact with Epstein through Maxwell. We know that Maxwell vacationed with Chelsea. She worked, of course, with Chelsea, or worked on things with Chelsea having to do with the Clinton Global Initiative. She attended Chelsea's wedding and had a front row seat, and other various things that they mention in the article. showing there's a really close relationship between, and this is all post Clinton being president. This is all recent history. Chelsea, certainly her father, and now the Rotten Reverend as well, all connected to Epstein via this Ghislaine Maxwell, and apparently she comes from British royalty. That's how she got into those circles, and she was able to bring all these people in these elite circles, particularly British royalty and things like that, into Epstein's world, I guess you would say. And the Clintons are, of course, part of that global cabal, as we all know. Well, what do we have here? It appears that Anthony's wiener is back with Huma. He's back with Huma. She's an idiot. Because especially the reporting that Wiener has recently been seen, he's been spotted with a young brunette dining at a Wall Street brunch spot. But Huma's letting him back in. Carlos Danger. Must be that insurance policy file. You want to see something really, really cringy? I mean really cringy. Go watch this video of Marianne Williamson. She's the nutcase Democrat who actually is polling higher than Cory Booker and Gillibrand and 3 or 4 others. She's polling higher than 3 or 4 regular Democrat politicians. There's a video of her where she's in this place. It's mostly white people and a few black people, and she gets the entire white people to place their hands on the nearest black person next to them, and she says, okay, I want you all to repeat after me. And she has them go through this prayer where she basically has them apologize to all these black people for all the sins that we white people have committed against them, and all this. It's just really, really weird, really cringy. Ooh, goodness. Maybe you shouldn't watch it. Do you remember when Governor Comey of New York told all the conservatives that they weren't welcome in New York? Well, looks like they were listening, and a lot of them are packing their shit and getting out and taking their money and their tax base with them, because that's where all the money came from, was a lot of these wealthy New York conservatives. They're getting out of New York, and now Comey has got serious money problems, and his cops, thanks to Bill de Blasio, are allowing themselves to literally be embarrassed and humiliated and attacked in the streets. And finally, the idiot demo-commie Elizabeth McCarthy has been completely outed. Again, another one of the many demo-commie hoaxes that have been uncovered. So this lying LGBT demo-commie Elizabeth McCarthy has now been forced to admit that she was lying when she said that she pulled 72 bullets out of 32 victims following the Pulse nightclub shooting. She at one time was the legislative director for the Florida Democrat Party's LGBT caucus. She has been forced to admit that she lied about being a basketball player for the Florida Gators. She's also been forced to admit she lied about attending college at the University of Florida and Florida State. She's been forced to admit that she lied about having a Bachelor of Arts from Florida State University. She's been forced to admit that she lied about being a nurse. She's been forced to admit that she lied about previous jobs that she cited. She has pled guilty. She will pay $3,095 in current fines. There could be more fines coming. There could be civil lawsuits and even more criminal charges. There you go. Another hate hoax blown up. Thank you so much. I'll be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. You guys have a good day. See you. Bye.